Now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We begin in Benue State, where President Bola Tinubu yesterday described the recent killings in Benue State as depressing, declaring that this must stop as government will not let the bloodletting in the state continue. President Tinubu, in a statement by his advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, renewed his order in the wake of the latest round of attacks, which had led to the deaths of many people. On the president's directive, intelligence chiefs, the police and the military have arrived in the state to direct security operations and restore sanity. He called on Governor Hyacinth Alia to convene a meeting of the warring factions for lasting peace. Also, Pope Leo XIV yesterday expressed deep sorrow at the murderous attacks on Benue State, which resulted in the massacre of about 200 people. The Pope spoke during Mass at the Vatican, and he offered solemn prayers for the deceased and Nigeria in general. Now to the Northeast, where there was palpable tension yesterday as the Northeast Consultative Stakeholders Meeting in Gombe endorsed President Bola Tinubu for the 2027 presidential election, but was silent on the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima. Unfortunately, this development ended the meeting in physical attacks over exclusion of Shettima in the proposed joint ticket for the 2027 general election. The three zones of the northern region, the Northwest, Northeast and North Central, appear to be in strong contention for the nation's number 2 seat in the 2027 elections. While the Northwest thinks it always churns out the highest votes in every election and therefore deserves it, the Northeast's argument is that they deserve the right of first refusal, having run the first term with the president in 2023. But the Central is of the view that it is the zone in the North that has always been handed the short end of the stick in every election permutation, despite always giving its all, and therefore demands a compensation with the number 2 seat in 2027. Fortunately for Shettima, all the three Northeast All Progressives Congress APC governors, Mai Mala Buni of Yobe State, Babagana Umara Zulum of Borno State, and the host Muhammadu Inua Yahaya of Gombe State, concluded their speeches endorsing the joint ticket with Shettima as running mate to Tinubu in 2027 election. Now, last in economic news, the Dangote petroleum refinery is set to revolutionize Nigeria's fuel distribution landscape by commencing nationwide distribution of premium motor spirit and diesel on August 15, 2025. The refinery will supply PMS and diesel to marketers, petrol dealers, manufacturers, telecom firms, aviation, and other large users across the country with free logistics support to boost distribution. Dangote Refinery has invested in 4,000 brand new compressed natural gas, that's CNG power tankers, to ensure a seamless exercise. The refinery will offer a credit facility to buyers purchasing a minimum of 500,000 litres, allowing them to obtain an additional 500,000 litres on credit for 2 weeks under bank guarantee. The registration process, including the Know Your Customer KYC verification, will take place from June 16th, that's today, to August 15th, spanning 60 days. Absolutely revolutionary indeed. And a very good morning to Rufai Oseni, who is with us from our Abuja studios. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I throw it straight to you, Rufai, your take on these stories of the day.
Couple of things, Vimba, thank you so much. Number one, I feel very sad this morning about Benue, and I must have to repeat, it is another one too many in our country. And when will all of this disaster end in Benue? And what would our leadership do about it? President Tinubu, it's not just about statements and telling the governor to go settle and instructing security agents. It's about being on ground the very first day. President Tinubu, you tweeted when we had our Boko Haram problems, when Goodluck Jonathan was president, that the buck stops with the commander-in-chief. We are repeating those your tweets to you today. What are you going to do about Benue? Over 200 people killed in that way and manner. People burned to death. I thought the other day the military said that they had deployed and now their theater of command will be at Benue to be able to forestall crises like this. So why do we still have crises like this? And for the security agents, I know you had to protect life and property, but disrupting the protesters for protesting peacefully about the killings of their people, is that the way to go? Do you think those protesters would just love to come out and protest if their people are safe and sound? The Pope made a prayer for Benue, and that beamed the searchlight of the world on Benue. A lot of killing. We've not sorted it out. I think we should focus on Benue. I think we should not remind President Tinubu to at least visit the people there and give them succor. I want to focus on Benue this morning because I don't want to focus on the aberration our politicians are doing, that they are more concerned about endorsements and coalition tickets between President Tinubu and Shettima when Benue is burning. This is an indictment on our politicians that all they have constantly talked about this week is about endorsing President Tinubu for 2027. When Benue is burning, when there's rampant insecurity in the country, when the state of the economy is unpalatable, there's high level of inflation, there's pain and penury, when we demand accountability and we don't see it, when Nigerians ask why 39 billion will be spent to renovate an ICC, and all they'll tell us is that we don't have class and we don't have tastes. Yes, we don't have class, we don't have taste, we are poor. But at least show that we have decency to respond by giving us a proper breakdown of what the project cost entails. That's just all we want with accountability. So my focus is on Benue this morning. I don't want to spare my thought talking about politicking and politicians trying to think of the next election. When Benue is on fire, dreams will never come back, people will never come back home, people are dead and gone forever because their country failed them. Anyway, I'm not surprised that politicians are thinking of the next elections. Because leaders think of the next generation, and politicians will always think of the next election. After the next election, what will happen to Benue? I think it's a seminal moment for all of us to introspect this morning. We are not doing well as a nation. My heart goes out to the people in Benue.
Thank you so much, Rufai. We bring the conversation back into studio. Dr. Abati, your views on today's headlines?
Okay, 3 issues. Where do I start from? First, let me start with the incident that happened in Gombe, where there was a meeting of the All Progressives Congress Party. Chairman of the party, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, in attendance. The Northeast APC chairman, also in attendance, and the meeting degenerated into absolute chaos, to use that phrase. What happened was that in his speech, we were told that Dr. Ganduje did not acknowledge Vice President Kashim Shettima. Similarly, the Northeast chairman of the APC also did not acknowledge Vice President Kashim Shettima. Now, that is the zone of the vice president, and his own supporters who felt aggrieved that why will you come to our zone and not recognize him, decided to disrupt the meeting, leading to a situation whereby security persons had to assist the chairman of the party and the chairman of the party in the Northeast out of the venue of that particular event. Now, what does this say to us? What it says to us is that, look, the APC itself should be cautious. APC looks like the bride of the moment. Everybody is defecting into the political party, but they have to worry about their own internal democracy. It was Chinua Achebe who said that those who have their palm kernels scrapped for them by the gods should learn to be humble. And I think that even as the APC keeps expanding as a political party, it should be cautious with issues of its own internal politics and dynamics. However, they will say, after a fashion, that, oh, it's a family affair. There's nothing, it's in the nature of politics for people to disagree. But if we place this in an historical context, many will remember that ahead of the 2003 election, this was how President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was president at the time, in the build-up to the 2003 election, his own supporters refused to mention the name of Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar, who was his vice president. In fact, there were rumors that he was not going to run with him in the 2003 general elections, that he was going to choose another person. That, wrong-footed the PDP, leading to a situation whereby Atiku Abubakar decided that, he will go on his own. And he got some governors to support him. It was an issue for the People's Democratic Party. Well, President Obasanjo and his vice, they found a way of resolving the matter. They now both went into the election together, 2003, 2007. But Nigerians suffered because of the seeds of discord that have been sown in the People's Democratic Party at that time. And yet, the second term of President Obasanjo, it was division in the villa. I must have written about 15 articles, about a whole series on what I termed at the time Bole Kaja presidency, as I documented, that crisis. History along those lines should not be allowed to repeat itself. Otherwise, it's the Nigerian electorate, it is the Nigerian people that will suffer. If and when President Bola Tinubu gets second term, and if they allow this to fester. However, there's also a second dimension to it. President Bola Tinubu has a reputation of not having, good rapport with his deputies. When he was governor of Lagos State, 1999 to 2007, he alone had 3 deputy governors. First, there was Madam Koforola Bokno Akerele. After him, after her, we had Mr. Femi Pedro, who came in, I think, 2003. Mr. Pedro, he also did not complete his term. 2003, I think around May or so, we had another deputy governor, Chief, what's his name now? Ogunleye, I think that's his name, Abiodun Ogunleye. So within a space of 8 years, Governor Tinubu, as he then was, had 3 deputy governors. I don't think that tradition, that habit, should be taken to the national level. The argument in the stories that I read is that, maybe for the second term, President Tinubu will try a Christian to have some kind of balance. Well, he should pay more attention. He's the veteran politician. He's a master strategist. To learn, to pay attention to the implications and try to learn from history. In my own estimation, I think Vice President Shettima has been very loyal, has been very committed, and has been very productive. But I'm not part of their internal dynamics, but this is just my own observation. Dangote. The Dangote refinery group has published wraparound adverts today in most of Nigerian newspapers to make a very historic, revolutionary announcement. Yes, media houses will be happy. They will make a lot of money. They will smile to the bank. Their bank balance will be further fattened, However, the major issue is about the content of that advert. You have Dangote Refinery now saying that, look, they have put in place a structure of about 1,000 vehicles, trucks, CNG-powered vehicles. They are also building about 100 CNG stations all over Nigeria to make it easier for finished products, whether it's fuel, PMS, or gas, to get to the end users. Whether these end users are big companies or moderate companies, in fact, they are also providing credit facility of a minimum of, I think, 500,000 liters within 2 weeks. And all of this, according to them, is to ensure energy efficiency, to reduce cost, to ensure sustainability, and above all, to support President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. In other words, this is a case of, the private sector supporting government policy. At the level of principle, I think that this is commendable. At the level of the objective of also promoting clean energy, okay, they are selling fuel, they are selling gas, but they are also going to, provide CNG vehicles, provide CNG stations. Well, from what I have read, I think that, this is an important development to the extent that it will make life easier, even for telecom operators. I hope the telecom operators that will now get supply direct will also behave like corporate citizens and make sure that we, the people that are always paying so much to even make phone calls, all these dropped calls and all that they also show good faith and not just depend on the generosity of Dangote refinery or Dangote group. So thank you, Dangote group. But the taste of the pudding is in the eating. This is a process that is just to start today, right? Now, when we see the effect, we will now be in a better position to do an assessment, which is our job. Now, finally, Benue. What is happening in Benue is very sad. Within a space of 61 days, 270 people were killed in Benue, across 10 local government areas, prompting the Chief of Army Staff to go to Benue to relocate there with some of his officials. He addressed the troops. He went round. That was in the first week of June. It is most unfortunate that the Chief of Army Staff, General Olukoyede, had hardly left the place and trouble started again. Last week, Friday, I think, 25 persons were killed in Makurdi local government area. By Sunday, 100 persons have been killed, displaced, exterminated in Yelwata, in Guma local government area. The situation in Benue, if you cost it, 270 people killed, another 125 persons killed, what they have in Benue State is a complete state of anarchy. And I think that the Nigerian government has a responsibility to ensure peace, not just in Benue, but in all parts of this country. After all, the Constitution of Nigeria, Section 14, sub 2 thereof, says that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the responsibility of government. Shall. It's not a matter of opinion. Shall. It is obligatory. The same Constitution talks about the right to human dignity. The same Constitution talks about right to life. Now in Benue State, people have been denied all these rights, whether under Chapter 2 or Chapter 4 of the Constitution. So it's a matter of urgency, emergency. I'm not saying they should go there and declare state of emergency. I'm just saying that this is an issue of urgent national importance. We have had Father Hyacinth Talia, the governor, on this program before. He's as helpless as anybody. The president is saying Aliyah should go and organize meetings. They've been organizing meetings on conflicts on the plateau and in that region for over decades, for over 3 decades. We have not been able to find a solution to it. So the Nigerian government has a responsibility to address this problem, whatever it takes. And the Pope has intervened. The Pope prayed for us. Well, we thank the Pope. Northern Christian Association of Nigeria is also saying that the government must act. Indeed, the killings in the Benue must stop. And the buck stops at the desk of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Absolutely. It is concerning to see some of the statements that almost seem to create a degree of distance between the commander-in-chief of the defense forces and the governor of the state. And this time that we feel that there should be a unified front. This is not a time for us to debate about whether this is the federal responsibility or whether this is a state or a governor's responsibility. This is a time for urgent action. Now, when you look at the international headlines, it's devastating to read about it. And it's unfortunate that it often takes international headlines for us to be shocked into some type of urgent action. Now, it's unfortunate, as Dr. Abati had already explained, that the Chief of Army Staff had relocated to Benue State just not even up to 2 weeks ago. The reports from his time there showed that he was not happy with what he saw, and he had called for some sort of structural changes as well as redeployments as well. So the question is, had those gone into effect yet, or is this a strategy that is still yet to be rolled out? But in the meantime, unfortunately, these evil and wicked people don't wait for the army to re-strategize. They don't wait for us to be prepared. They are on the offensive. What do we have happening in Benue State? We now have a complex layer of various issues. Something that started as a herder-farmer crisis has now gone into an issue that embroils local militia. It has now gone into rural banditry and criminality. There are so many different types of criminal activities happening at one time that the issue has become so complex. In 2018, the government had introduced the Operation World Stroke. Now, this operation involved multiple agencies to try and tackle the issue, and it did, to a degree, reduce some of the attacks that we had seen. But what were some of the issues? Some of the issues that led to us seeing some sort of limited result in the outcome of this operation is the fact that when people are arrested, we are not seeing efficient prosecution of suspects. We're not seeing efficient rehabilitation of those who have been displaced by this crisis. We're not seeing continued, sustainable, steady enforcement once the military operation is over. So it's one thing for us to treat the symptoms. There are killings now, and the army will move in for the moment. That's treating the symptoms. But what are the systematic issues that are underlying that need to be addressed so that there can be a sustainable solution to this issue? We know that at the very core of this is issues surrounding climate change. We know that at the very core of this is issue of a fight over resources. Because it's only when you have a fight over resources, a fight over land, a fight over the means of production, that you now have it going from being an ethnic conflict to even being a criminal conflict. Because people are poor, and those evil agents amongst the people will resort to criminality. There was a senior advocate of Nigeria who had written to the president a couple of weeks ago, Sebastian Hon. Now, while I don't agree with him because he was calling for a state of emergency, what was insightful in his letter is that he seemed to have predicted what we just saw happen this weekend, because he said some traditional rulers had been calling for the removal of certain groups of people from certain lands, and he had sounded the alarm that there are retaliatory attacks that are loading very soon. So some people say that the Chief of Army Staff had moved into Benue State in response to this alarm that was sounded by the senior advocate of Nigeria. But unfortunately, he's saying that it seems that the strategies at the moment are disjointed and a little bit confusing. There's another operation at play as well called the Operation Planning Cadre. And the SAN was saying that all these different operations, and we're not sure who is being targeted and what is being targeted, and we're not feeling the impact of it. So in all of this, I think the real call is for us not to play the blame game, not to see this distance between the federal and the state. It needs to be one unified body that now comes together to see how we can provide succor and respite for the people of Benue State urgently and without further escalation and without further loss to life. Again, we do commiserate with the people of Benue State, and we pray that the killings are brought to an end immediately.